He was nicknamed Ötzi because he was found in the Ötztal Alps on the border of Italy and Austria. Archaeologists immediately began speculating about how Ötzi died. Most believe that Ötzi had been caught in a blizzard and perished from exposure. But there were other theories. Maybe he had an accident, was attacked by wild animals, or even was killed by other people. To find out what really happened to Ötzi, I'm going to try to experience what Ötzi would have experienced. I'm going to follow in his footsteps up into the high Alps. I'm a survival guide, and I'm curious how people in the Stone Age tried to function in this harsh environment.
These two valleys? Yeah, see here is the valley.
We're on a path which was probably very familiar to Ötzi. It's a trading route that dates from prehistoric times. I'm with Professor Walter Leitner, an archaeologist from the University of Innsbruck.
So what would this look like back then? Here, we have a fireplace.
Walter discovered this archaeological site in 1994.
Now we have snow, and this era is absolutely dry.
He determined it was a shelter used by traders during the Stone Age.
Okay. Yeah. I'll ask you some more questions like this. Oh, I must mind my head. People at that time was not so tall. Me. Yeah. When did people first start using this site? 8,000 before Christ. Really? Yes. And they settled there in the period from 8,000 to the 4th millennium before Christ. So there were people here 5,300 years ago, during the time of Ötzi. Exactly. The place of discovery of the man in the ice is not far from here. Oh, how far? About three or 4 hours to go upside. And so, I think that Ötzi could have passed here and took a stop. Really? Yeah. Ötzi himself was here? Yeah. Sitting right here? That's, like you, that's my opinion. That's pretty wild. That's incredible to think about. Yeah.
But Ötzi certainly ventured much farther into the mountains than the rock shelter. My goal is to follow his path as far and as high as it goes. We're heading to the pass between Italy and Austria, where Ötzi's body was found. Ahead of us, a challenging 4-hour climb up 2.5 miles of dangerous terrain. To help us with this challenge, Walter and I join up with Marcus Pierpalmer, a mountain guide and one of the first people to find Ötzi.
So tell me, why am I being roped up?
Yeah, we are coming now on the glacier.
Yeah.
It's pretty dangerous there, of crevasse. Maybe...
New snow covers deadly hidden crevasses that can be 50 or even 60 feet deep.
So this is serious stuff. This is a little dangerous, huh? From here to there?
On the glacier, yes. Better so. Also for me, it's the first time that I'm on the rope.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's actually mine too.
I'm a little afraid, I must confess.
Wait, just so I know what we're doing here. If you fall into a crevasse, what do I do? Just stand and hold you?
Just stay still and pull the rope. Maybe I come out of the crevasse myself, or you have to pull together, Walter and you.
Okay, and if I fall, what do I do?
Just stay still.
Hang out.
I will tell you. We will help you to come out.
Okay, so you two are now my best friends.
Yes.
Okay?
This moment, yes.
Yes, my life's with you.
Between here and our destination, 2 glaciers, and who knows how many hidden crevasses. We climb for an hour. Then another. If Ötzi came this way, he would have been much more acclimatized to the altitude. For Walter and me, it's a lung-burning hike. I'm gaining an ever-increasing respect for Ötzi's ability to navigate through the high Alps.
I fell. This is... Can you give me a hand? Oh, I was hoping to show you something here. Look over here.
This is where glacier meets mountain, where solid rock gives way to dangerous concealed crevasses, and we could fall through at any time. With each weary step of our snowshoes, we try to gain a few more feet toward the top of the ridge.
I don't care when you're doing this. 5,300 years ago or today. This is not easy. This is a good hike.
I find myself wondering why Ötzi made this trip into the Alps. He must have known the risks of such a hike. And surely he would have known about the constant threat of bad weather. In the Alps, conditions can change very quickly. And that's exactly what's happening to us. It's taken us 4 hours of climbing to reach what Marcus says is the 3-hour mark. The altitude is sapping our strength, and a storm is closing in.
The good news is that we got the 3-hour mark, and Marcus hasn't fallen into a crevasse yet. The bad news is we still have an hour to go, and it just got a lot colder.
Is this what happened to Ötzi? Did a freak storm catch him unprepared? And is history about to repeat itself?
I can't see anything anymore. Is this bad news?
Where are we going now? You have to go down this way.
The situation has become very serious. The temperature has plummeted, and visibility is down to just a few feet.
Marcus just told me that because the storm is continuing to build, he's not going to be able to show me the Ötzi site. Every minute that I'm on this mountain adds to the risk.
Suddenly, everything has changed. The question is no longer whether we can get to the site where Ötzi died, but if we can make it out alive. I'm in the Italian Alps, following in the footsteps of a Stone Age man called Ötzi. I've hiked across a glacier, headed towards where he was found high above the snow line. But a sudden storm almost buried us alive.
So I'm back in my hotel room and want to take a little time to explain what happened. The weather came in when we hit the top of the glacier, and just within minutes, we couldn't see anything. It was beyond the scope of my role as a presenter. It was like, boom, we were just humans trapped on that mountain. We could have died. It was that severe. It went from, I want to see where Ötzi was found, to I want to live and not die in the place where Ötzi died. It really was that black and white.
Marcus called in a chopper. But with visibility almost zero, we still had to scramble 2,000 feet down a dangerous cliff before it could pick us up. I've been a guide for 16 years, and I've never been in a scenario where our lives were so at risk. And while I'm upset at one level that I didn't get to see the site, at a much more significant level, I'm really just happy that I lived.
No, tomorrow, we gotta go again. We'll rest, take a hot bath, then we gotta go back up.
After a good night's rest, I wake up to a beautiful, clear sky. I'm in luck. I've decided to head back up to see the site where Ötzi's body was found. This time, I'm doing it the easy way.
Last time I was here, you couldn't see anything. The storm was hovering on the top of these peaks. This is beautiful. We're now approaching where Ötzi was found, right there. I don't know if you can see it. There's a pylon, a marker showing the site where the Neolithic discovery was made. There, right there. And this is why it was so hard for him to have been found. We are at the top of the world, in the middle of nowhere. Look at that cliff. You see that slope? That is where we had to basically make our way completely down this slope, blinded by the snow. We tied a rope to that rock right there, and then we were lowered very fast to the bottom where the helicopter picked us up off the side of this cliff. It's a little freaky being back here. It's just, but.
Looking at the site where Ötzi was found, I'm astonished at the isolation. What was he doing up this high? By himself? in a place where a storm can blow in within minutes and freeze a man to death. How could Ötzi think he could survive at this altitude? What kind of preparation did he have to deal with such adverse conditions? Who was this man? To get some answers, I've come to Bolzano, Italy, Ötzi's new home.
When the Iceman was first discovered, he captured the world's imagination. There were hundreds of articles and news reports, and archaeologists, as you can imagine, were fascinated. And today, he even has his own museum.
It's nestled in the old quarter of the city and has become a big tourist attraction.
And here he is, the museum's main attraction. Over 250,000 people come here every year to see Ötzi's actual body, safely preserved in a climate-controlled environment.
Now frozen at precisely 21 degrees Fahrenheit, Ötzi's mummy reveals a lot about the man. He stood about 5 feet 2 inches tall, average for his day. When he died, he was 46 years old and slightly arthritic. Judd Stevenson from the South Tyrol Museum shows me around.
For the first time, we're able to understand something about how the man dressed, what he ate, what equipment he used, what weapons he had, for example.
Practically speaking, the clothing, what about this jacket?
Right, this coat, you can see the alternating stripes here. They're actually made of individual pieces of goat skin, stitched together using animal sinew. You know, this is not Gore-Tex or anything like that, but it was extremely effective at keeping him warm.
As Judd talks, Ötzi comes alive in my imagination. He carries a powerful bow. His backpack is as effective as any modern hiker's. Deerskin shoes are stuffed with dried grass, the most effective means of insulation available. They keep his feet warm, even in deep snow.
He carried some really important objects, like his dagger, his flint-bladed dagger.
Everything was well thought out, with a purpose.
And this is a retouching tool. It looks like a crayon, and it's used to sharpen flint.
Instead of trousers, Ötzi wore leggings stitched together from small pieces of animal skin. But his most impressive piece of clothing was worn on his head.
Wow, so this is the bearskin hat you're
Yes, this is it, the real one.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
And why do you believe this is a status symbol?
It says, I've killed a bear. It's bearskin. I've killed a bear. It shows some form of authority and power.
Now, what makes you think that Ötzi was given this as a status symbol as opposed to just making it himself or buying it or trading for it?
We don't know if he made it himself, but when we look at the quality of the stitching on this, it's very, very well made. When you compare the stitching on this to the repair work that he probably did on his coat, this is much higher quality, much better made. And we believe that this means that there could have been clothes makers, tailors around 5,000 years ago.
Even if others made his beautiful bearskin hat, Ötzi was constantly repairing his clothes himself. He carried everything he needed on his back or in his belt. But there was one big surprise, something no archaeologist had expected.
So this is the original axe.
This is the original axe indeed. It's the only complete copper-bladed axe of that era ever found.
And I guess we're very lucky that this was buried with him.
Oh, yes. It was the first serious indication of how important the discovery the Iceman was.
What do you think Ötzi did with something like this?
We believe it was a status symbol, copper. This is the very early stages of the Copper Age as far as we know. And so therefore, it was something of symbolic importance. However, it could also have been used as a tool. It has signs of wear on the blade, so it can be used.
Ötzi's possessions were a lot more sophisticated than I expected. He seemed to be prepared for almost every kind of emergency. But could Ötzi have lived through the same conditions that we just experienced on the glacier? Calling in a chopper wasn't an option for Ötzi. But what else might he have done in order to survive? I decide to try an experiment.
When Ötzi was first discovered, people assumed he died from exposure, which makes sense because hypothermia is by far the #1 killer in the wilderness, especially in wintertime. To test this theory, I've come up on top of a glacier, 10,000 feet above sea level, and I'm going to spend the night in a shelter made from the same material that Ötzi had. Snow.
This kind of shelter I'm building is called a quinsy.
So, first stage is to make a mound. Once I get the dome, I have to start packing the snow. If I didn't have a shovel, I could use snowshoes. If I didn't have snowshoes, I could use my hands. I could walk on it. There's a lot of different ways to do this. While I'm doing this, I have to be very conscious of my heat level, because if I don't, I might sweat. And if I stop working, that sweat's gonna freeze to ice, and then I'll have ice directly against my skin. And that is the easiest way for me to get hypothermic. Mountaineers know this, and Ötzi probably know it too. It's starting to look like an igloo made out of snow, which is what a quinsy is. Once I have the proper dome, then I go into phase 2. I want to dig a hole into the quinsy, and I'm going to put the hole on the northeast side because the wind is coming from the southwest. And this way I won't have wind and snow blowing in through the door of my shelter.
It takes 4 hours of hard work to finish the quinsy, and just in time. These mountains get much colder as day turns to dusk. The temperature up here tonight is certain to drop well below 0.
The moment of truth has arrived. From here on out, it's just me, the mountain, and a shelter I made out of snow. My goal, as was Ötzi's, is to stay warm and survive the night.
A Stone Age man called Ötzi was frozen in the Alps 5,300 years ago. I've been to where he was found. I've learned how he equipped himself to survive in his environment. Now, I intend to spend the night in a snow shelter I built myself and test the theory that says Ötzi died of exposure. I'm at 10,000 feet on a glacier, and it's well below freezing.
Let me give you a tour. That's the door, blocked by my backpack, and the rest of the shelter is just snow. Check this out.
I'm Superman. This is my fortress of solitude.
And the night is halfway over. Been sleeping a little bit here and there, depending on how comfortable. Ooh, you hear that? It's getting colder. It is 30 degrees in this quinsy. Cold, but I'm still alive. So, the experiment continues.
I heard something outside. Who is it? It's Ötzi. What do you want? What do you want? I'm just teasing.
Wow. Snowy. I didn't realize this much snow. It's pretty good. Got through the night. Didn't sleep all the way through it, but who cares? I survived, and that's the point. If I could have survived the night, Ötzi could have too. So for me, it's back to the drawing board and on to other theories.
My next stop is the Schnalls Valley in Italy, just below the pass where Ötzi died.
When Ötzi was first discovered, people assumed he died a victim of his environment, either by falling into a crevasse or freezing in the cold. But the odds are, Ötzi was probably too familiar with this environment for that to have happened. So I'm here to explore a new theory, which proposes Ötzi died because he was attacked, perhaps by a wild animal or even another man.
To test this idea, I've met up with Harm Paulson, an experimental archaeologist.
Yes. You see it? Yeah,
He's making fire with the same materials Ötzi carried, pyrite rocks and tinder from local plants and fungi. Ötzi could create and maintain a fire anywhere.
Yeah, that's good.
He was carrying the Stone Age equivalent of a big lighter.
There we go.
That's okay. We have it.
Even though it's a damp and foggy day, Harm and I have no trouble getting a fire going.
So you're saying that animals would have respected this fire?
Yeah, I think so. Wild animals will hold distance. They don't like fire.
They don't like
That's
fire.
the difference between man and animal.
Ötzi's mastery of fire is yet another way he could protect himself. This rules out one more theory of how he perished.
So then the theory that he was attacked by animals probably doesn't hold much weight because he had fire.
Yeah, that's right. I think the animals were not the problem.
Okay. What do you think was the problem?
The problem were other people.
Other people.
Yeah, I think so.
How did Ötzi view his fellow man? Is it possible his weapons were designed with human as well as animal targets in mind?
This is exactly the same shape and the same length.
Same material?
Same material.
I want to find out just how deadly Ötzi's bow was. And this is Harm's specialty, making and using tools exactly as prehistoric people did.
So by shooting a bow like this, you can gain insight into how Ötzi hunted.
Ötzi definitely used his bow to hunt game. And for Harm, it's not just about recreating tools Ötzi would have used. It's about testing them in real conditions.
This is my disclaimer, because this might look a little odd. Harm is hanging a deer carcass on the firing range, and the reason is simple. We need to know if this bow and arrow can actually penetrate flesh and bone. So we're using this deer, which was killed this morning by hunters. When we're done with the experiment, the meat's going to go to a restaurant for venison. So don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Huh. Is that okay?
That's great. A good shoot. That's deadly.
That was deadly.
It's deadly.
Let's see.
Exactly. Yeah, it's good. It's in. You can see the point here. Inside it has penetrated the ribs here. And okay, that is a hidden animal. You have it.
So this animal would have died had I shot it this way?
Yeah, I am absolutely sure. Absolutely sure.
And so this proves not only would this bow and arrow, which is the same as Ötzi's, have killed a deer, but more importantly, it would have killed a person.
Yeah, no problem. This shoot is deadly for everybody.
Ötzi's bow and arrow were not only lethal, they were beautiful. A wonder of prehistoric technology. And the bow is just the beginning.
You made all this.
Yeah.
Harm shows me the tools that Ötzi made for himself, and that he has duplicated exactly.
It will not break. It's a little bit like modern plastic or...
I'm staggered by the number and variety.
Makes the arrow a little bit heavier in the top.
Which keeps, I assume, which keeps the flight line level.
That's right. And feathers are a wonder of technology. You can do this here, and you see it's destroyed, but it does no matter. It's okay again.
Working with stone tools, Ötzi was a master craftsman. His sense of design was sophisticated. Everything was the product of careful thought.
When you put this arrow in here, you see it's exactly until here. And then to protect these feathers, you put this over it. And then no rain can come in when you close this here. And you see, you can understand it with your hands. You know, it's just one move, and then you take it out, and then you have it on the bowstring.
I feel as if I'm really getting to know Ötzi. Above all, I'm full of respect.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, very elegant, these arrows.
No, I say, I've shot, I mean, even the nicest aluminum arrows that you can buy today, they're not much better than this. This is high quality.
Yeah, nearly. Yeah. And this arrow, the original of this arrow is 5,300 years old.
Yeah.
And all these sport arrows from today, that's not an innovation.
No, it's not. Yeah.
They have copied the old one.
And the care, I mean, the quality and the care that he took to make the point and to fasten it to this branch and then to fletch it. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of understanding that goes into this.
Yeah, I think so. This tells a lot about that man who has made that.
Ötzi was a sculptor of stone, fashioning everything he needed from scratch. How many modern people could do this?
The people since 40,000 years, it's the same like us. Both us and the Stone Age people. We are the same, absolutely. And we have the same intelligence.
Clearly, Ötzi could defend himself against potential enemies with his bow. But did he have other weapons in his arsenal? I asked Harm if Ötzi could have used his dagger to kill.
No, indeed. It's too short, this blade, and he cannot hurt person seriously. And you cannot penetrate the clothes and so on.
His knife couldn't even pierce another man's coat. But what about the copper axe? Could that be used as a weapon?
With this axe you can cut down trees, you can carve bows, and you can kill enemies. You see, you can fight with it.
As Harm explained, human enemies were Ötzi's primary concern. He might have been ambushed or outnumbered. If so, the question is, why? Perhaps the answer lies with the copper axe. Ötzi had a copper axe in the Stone Age, and this would have been a tool so special and so coveted, he might have been killed for it. Finally, we're getting somewhere. I'm getting a clearer picture of Ötzi's world. And the copper axe is providing important clues as to how and why he might have died. I'm in the Italian Alps where a 5,300-year-old man called Ötzi was discovered, flash frozen in glacial ice. I've slept in a snow shelter, tried out Stone Age weapons, and even had a near-death experience on a glacier, on a quest to find out how Ötzi died. Now I'm on my way to Ötzidorf, a model village built to show the type of society Ötzi lived in. I'm hoping it will tell me more about who Ötzi was.
It's accurate, yes? Yes, that's correct.
Professor Leitner has recovered from our ordeal on the glacier and shows me around.
It's water repellent. Really?
You might think of prehistoric people as living in caves, but these houses of wood and hides are warm and comfortable, perfect for any family. And they're part of a larger prehistoric village.
Houses like that. 30 or 40 people living in a community. Yeah. So that's nice because for me, people think of like mountain men and Stone Age men as these independent loners hiking alone in the wilderness, right? But this is a totally different feel. Would you like some pizza? We're in Austria, so I guess I can't give you a pizza. And Ötzi had bread on him, didn't he? He had einkorn.
Yes,
bread.
yes.
So
yes,
it may have
yes.
been baked in something like this.
You're
So
right.
again, this really helps people visualize the world around Ötzi and help understand that this isn't just a hunter-gatherer on the run. This is someone who came from a village where they baked bread.
Yeah.
Not only did Ötzi have a lot to live for, he had a sense of an afterlife too.
This is a chamber tomb. They start to show up in the late Stone Age. A body will be placed inside, and then the soul of that person would escape through this hole. They represent a significant shift in perspective. During the hunter-gatherer phase, people were buried pretty much wherever they died. But here, during the late Stone Age, there's a greater sense of permanence, and that's expressed by the chamber tomb because this says, we live here. People are starting to feel like a sense of ownership for their communities. Ötzi died 24 miles from here, 10,000 feet up. Had he survived the night and come down from the glacier, this might have been what he was buried in.
My next stop is a small town, Algun. I've been told I can find another clue to Ötzi's life right here.
Wow. Wait, come here, check this out. This was found in a nearby vineyard. It is a holy object from the Stone Age. It's called a picture stone, and it represents a person. Here's the face. We can see here a belt. There's several daggers, but what's most important, right here, there's an axe. And check this out. It's a perfect fit. What this shows, or rather suggests, is that Ötzi may have been a person of status in this community because he had one of these. I feel as if I'm coming to know Ötzi. I can imagine him leaving the safety net of his little village and heading out into a dangerous world. Was he on a solitary hike? Or on his way to do some trading?
Thanks to modern science, we can now do more than speculate. We can actually retrace his final steps on the very day he died.
Klaus, you're an archaeobotanist?
Yes.
Sorry? What is that?
I returned to the Schnalls Valley, just a few miles from where Ötzi died, to meet Professor Klaus Ugel, an archaeobotanist at the University of Innsbruck. His specialty is the relationship between prehistoric man and plants. Amazingly, plants can tell us the exact time of year Ötzi died, and precisely where he lived.
You have the species here around.
The first clue comes from the strangely named hop hornbeam tree.
Klaus, you said that this is a significant tree?
Yes, we were really amazed about this. We found plenty of pollen of this tree in his gut content.
So this
Klaus found pollen from the hop hornbeam tree in Ötzi's stomach. Its pollen is released only in the spring.
And we got as a result that Ötzi died in spring.
But the undigested contents of Ötzi's stomach tell us even more. They pinpoint his precise location
in his gut content, which tells us that he drank water from this rivulet.
From this rivulet?
Coming down from the summit where he was found.
Wow, that's impressive. So not only have you been able to say that we have this region, and then we have this valley, and then we have the entrance to the valley, but you can tell he actually spent his final hours here on this rivulet.
Yes.
Klaus has gotten me closer to Ötzi's final moments than I could ever have thought possible. But can we also determine the precise circumstances of his death? I've been working to uncover the true story of Ötzi, a Stone Age man found in the Italian Alps, preserved in ice since the day he died. We've seen Ötzi as a possible victim of weather or accident, but there's one more possible explanation: murder. To explore this new and much more disturbing theory, I've come back to Bolzano, Italy. I'm here to talk to Dr. Paul Gossner, former head of radiology in the municipal hospital. In 2001, he took another look at x-rays of Ötzi's body. Gossner's practiced eye detected something that other scientists had missed.
So was there anything unusual about this x-ray?
In the region of the left shoulder, I noted a light spot, which is approximately as bright as a bone. If you examine it more exactly, you become aware that this spot has the form from an arrowhead.
It does look like an arrowhead. That's incredible.
Finally, some concrete evidence. The arrow in the back is big news, not just because it could explain how Ötzi died, but because it suggests the possibility of murder. This is where archaeology steps aside and modern forensic science takes over. When Dr. Gossner made his discovery, he immediately took the x-rays to the city coroner, Dr. Edward A. Garter.
Doctor, if you could tell me, what are these tools used for? Like, what's this for?
It is a knife we use for cutting the liver and the brain.
Yeah, okay.
Dr. A. Garter is a forensic scientist. He's also responsible for preserving Ötzi's body and all research associated with it.
Cutting
Absolutely
this way.
correct. So yes.
Okay. How about this one? Looks interesting. What's this for? Is it a hammer?
Yes, it's for opening the skull.
Okay. Just leave that one right there. So tell me, you're used to working on modern humans. What was it like to actually have someone brought to you that was 5,300 years old?
Years old, yes. It's not important if the body is 5,300 years old or 1 day old. It's the same approach.
Working with Dr. Gossner, Dr. A. Garter put Ötzi on the operating table and found a small wound going through his skin and muscles toward the bone. It was conclusive proof that Ötzi had been shot by an arrow.
But the reality of how the arrow entered the body, right? This was not something that he could have self-inflicted. This had to be shot from the back, isn't that correct?
Yes, he was shot in this, exactly in this place, and the arrow penetrating deep for 3 centimeters in the body. The Iceman is a little bit smaller than you, and yes, smaller, and the chest is thinner, so it's okay. And the arrow had stopped in this position.
Now we're getting some real answers. Dr. A. Garter thinks Ötzi was probably being chased. he was shot from behind. The arrow went almost 2 inches into his back. But was this the moment that Ötzi died? To answer this question, Dr. Agarter went back and looked at Ötzi again. He found something astonishing: wounds in other places on Ötzi's body.
We found a wound in the right hand of the Iceman, exactly in this position, a deep wound. And we could prove with the tissue analysis that the wound is older than 1 or 2 hours. The wound is old, I believe, 18, 24 hours. So, probably he was involved in a fight 1 or 1.5 days before he died.
According to this theory, Ötzi was in a desperate struggle with more than one person. To Dr. Agarter, the facts are clear. They point to murder.
Some hours before he died, he was involved in a battle. He was wounded on his hand. He has other 3, 4 small wounds on the right chest. And all this information permits us to conclude that it was a death by violence.
But Ötzi didn't die easily. Somehow, he was able to get away from the fight that caused the wound in his hand. He fled, closely followed by his enemies. He was shot, but got up again and miraculously got away from his pursuers, heading up into the mountains for safety.
So the reality of these injuries, the cut on the hand and the arrow, these were not fatal, at least not immediately fatal.
No, he died. It was exhausting, cold, weakness, pain, psychological depression, all what do you want.
Ötzi must have had tremendous endurance. He survived at least 8 hours after he was wounded. Despite multiple injuries, an arrowhead in his shoulder, and significant loss of blood, he managed to climb thousands of feet straight up into the high mountains. And it was there he finally died. As I've gotten to know how he lived and died, I've developed strong feelings of respect for the Iceman we now call Ötzi. And I'm not alone.
I personally feel myself as a friend of the Iceman. I never forget that he is a human being. He's no object for my study, but he is a human being, and it's the most important thing. 5,000 years or not 5,000 years is not important.
Ötzi is far more than a murder mystery waiting to be solved. From one man frozen in the ice, archaeologists and scientists have gained a rare source of new information. And for the rest of us, Ötzi offers a physical and very personal connection with our distant past.